Join the students. Welcome once again. Since yesterday we had started the story, we had completed first page, first paragraph of the first page, and now today we will proceed the story from there onwards. So for that, first of all, let me share the story on your screen. Here it is that first paragraph we had completed yesterday. Now we are moving forward from the second paragraph today, as it was all much more tempting than the rule of participles, but I had the strength to resist and hurried off to school. Means that first of all that he thought, means French, the narrator, thought to spend the time out of the school, not to attend the school, because that he had not completed, he was late. One reason that he was late, and secondly that he had not prepared the participles, the homework also. So he was expecting a scolding from his teacher M. Hamel, and that's why that he thought first to spend the time not to attend the school, but later on he said that I had the strength to resist, to oppose, and hurried off to school. But he resisted, he opposed his wish to spend time out of the school, and then decided to go to school. So he hurriedly reached to the school, and he started going to school. And now let us see that what happened next. When I passed, the narrator French says that when he passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. There was a bulletin board. Bulletin board means there was a notice board near the town hall. And then he says that when he passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. Means some people were gathered there in front of the bulletin board, in front of the notice board. And for the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. And then that the narrator was thinking that from last 2 years, all the bad news which they received, all those bad news they received through that bulletin board, like the lost battles, as you know, the France lost battle against Prussians. That news they received from the bulletin board. The draft means that recruitment of the army personnel, that news also they received from there. And the orders of the commanding officers, that news also they received from there. And I thought to myself, without stopping, what can be matter now. Then the narrator says, while he was going hurriedly towards the school, but when he saw that a gathering there in front of the bulletin board, then he thought that what could be the matter this time. And since he was going to school, but even though he was thinking that there must be some news that time also, so he was wondering what was the news this time. Then, as I hurried by as fast as I could go, the blacksmith Vector, who was there with his apprentice, with his disciples, reading the bulletin, called after me. And then the narrator says that when he was going hurriedly to school as fast as he could, the blacksmith Vector, means a blacksmith Vector was there, who knows him, who knew narrator also. And who was there with his apprentice? He was also there, reading the notice along with his apprentice, his disciples, his students, and reading the bulletin, and called after me, "Don't go so fast, bub. You will get to your school in plenty of time." And he called when the vector saw French that going hurriedly towards the school, then he called him and said to him, "Don't go so fast," means no need to be hurry to reach to school, because you will get to your school in plenty of time. You have a lot of time to reach to school, because he had read the news what was written there on the bulletin board. So I thought he was making fun of me, and reached M. Hammel's little garden all out of breath. And then French says that he thought that what was making means he was means Vector was making fun of me, means he was making a joke with him. So he did not stop, and then very quickly he reached to M. Hammel's little garden, because the school was running in the garden, M. Hammel's garden. So he reached to the school which was running in M. Hammel's garden all out of breath, because he was running, so he was panting there when he reached. So usually when school began, there was a great bustle. Bustle means there was a great noise. And usually what happened, that when school was running at that time, there was a lot of noise which was coming from the classroom, as which could be heard out in the street, and those bustle, those noise could be heard from the distance, even from the street. Like what kind of noise could be heard from the street? Like the opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in unison. Unison means all together, all the students were repeating, means learning their lessons loudly. That kind of noise could also be heard. And very loud, with our hands over our ears to understand better, because it was their tendency to put their hands, both the hands on their ears, close both the ears, so that they can concentrate, and they were repeating, learning their lessons loudly. And the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table, and teachers who the teacher M. Hamel, that who was always carrying a ruler, iron ruler with him. So the rapping sound of the iron ruler could also be heard. But now it was all so still. But that day when he reached to the school, so there was complete silence. Still means there was complete silence there. There was no noise at all. I had counted on the commotion. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. And then French says that when there was a lot of noise, that he could take help from those noise. With the help of those noise, that he commotion means those noise, he was able to get to his desk, to his seat, without being seen by the teacher. But of course that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. But that day it was not so, because there was complete silence, there was completely still. And so that's why it seems that there was a Sunday morning. Sunday generally school is closed, so there was no noise. So it seemed that there was a complete silence like Sunday morning that day. And then through the window I saw my classmates. And then French narrates that when he looked through the window into the classroom, he found that his friends, his classmates were already there sitting in the classroom and already in their places, and M. Hamel walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. And that teacher M. Hamel was also present. He was walking up and down, putting his terrible ruler under his arm. And I had to open the door and go in before everybody. And he says that he had to open the door and entered into the classroom in front of everyone. And you can imagine how I blushed. Means he says that you can imagine that how he was blushed, how he was ashamed, how ashamed he was feeling, embarrassed he was feeling, and how frightened I was. And then he was absolutely frightened because he had to enter. He was late, and he had not prepared his homework also. And one thing, and the second thing, that he was too late. So that's why it was quite embarrassing for him to enter into the classroom in front of everyone, in front of the teacher. And since the teacher M. Hamel was very strict, so he was also frightened, he was also scared of him. Now after that, what happened, let us see that. But nothing happened. But that day, since he was late and he entered into the classroom, but nothing happened, because M. Hamel saw me and said very kindly, go to your place quickly, little French. But that day, that he was not angry. M. Hamel was not angry, means there was a change in his personality. Instead of being angry and instead of scolding him, that his tone was quite gentle and kind. And he saw him and said very kindly that go to your place quickly, little French. And he said to French in a very gentle tone to go and take his seat. We were beginning without you. And he told that they, means he did not wait for him, rather they started teaching without waiting for French. And then I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. And then the narrator French says that he jumped over the bench and sat, means quickly he reached to his seat and sat on his desk. And not till then, when I had got a little over my fright, did I see that our teacher had on his beautiful green coat. And then when he reached immediately, that still he was frightened, still he was scared, but he noticed that his teacher M. Hamel had on his beautiful green coat, means he was wearing his best dress, he was wearing his most beautiful dress that day. And he was wearing his green coat, his frilled shirt, means his decorative shirt, and the little black silk cap. And he was also wearing a black silk cap, all embroidered. And all this shirt, coat, and his hat, means everything was embroidered, means he was in his best dress at that time. Remember students, it is important to notice, means there was some change in the atmosphere of the classroom, and in the behavior of M. Hamel, and also M. Hamel's dressing. Everything was changed, and all these things had been noticed by French, the narrator. And that's why we can say that he was, a minute, he was a keen observer. He observed each and every changes minutely. And then that he never wore except on all embroidered, that he never wore except on inspection and prize days. Remember student, means the dress which he was wearing there on that day, means he was not wearing on any occasion, rather that he never wore except on inspection and prize days. Means uh, he was wearing that special dress on special occasions. Either uh, it would have been inspection in the school, or it would have been prize distribution days. Only that special occasions he used to uh, put on those that beautiful dress. But there was nothing like that. Neither inspection day was that, nor there was any prize day on that day. Even then he was wearing his best dress. Means still there was something special, but he was unable, means narrator French was unable to understand that fact. And besides the whole school, and not only this, rather he noticed some more changes. These were the changes, but apart from this, some more changes were there which had been noticed by the narrator French. What was that? The whole class, whole school seemed so strange and solemn. And apart from that, that whole school seemed to be strange, looked quite strange and solemn, and means everyone present in the school were quite serious. And but the thing that surprised me most was, see, on the back benches that were always empty, the village people sitting quietly like ourselves. Now this is important, students, even that last year, rather this year also, this question was asked: what was special in the classroom that day at the time of the last lesson? So what was the special which that he had noticed? Means there were so many changes as it was mentioned above, but what was the most surprising for him, for French, the narrator, that day? Because that surprised, but the thing that surprised me most, that surprised French most, if it will be, there were so many surprising thing, but if it will be asked what was the most surprising thing, and then you will have to give this answer only. So what was the most surprising thing? It was to see on the back benches that were always empty. And generally the back benches of the classroom was always empty, but that day it was occupied by the village people, and who were sitting quietly like ourselves, like students. That villagers, some villagers were also attending the class that day, and who were the some that important people of the village were present there, like old Hauser with his three-cornered hat, and the former mayor old Hauser, and that the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others besides them were attending the classroom. Why they were attending the classroom? Naturally, because they had also come to know that this was going to be the last lesson. It was the effect. Remember, students, if you will have to write, you will have to justify the title. You can also give these examples. It was the effect of the last lesson, because of that, all the, not only students, rather all the that villagers, that some of the villagers were also attending the class that day. And everybody looked sad. And since not only students, rather village people, some prominent village people, respected honorable village people were also present there, but everyone were quite sad that day. And Hauser had brought an old primer. Old primer means that was an elementary book, that old Hauser had bought an elementary book for learning, and which was thumbed at the edges, means an old primer. And he held it open on his knees with his great spectacles lying across the pages, and he had held it, and he had kept it on his knees and opened it uh, as he was also reading. And so all these changes you will have to, if so many changes are there, means which had been noticed by French. But remember students, if you will have to write the if the question will be asked as short answer type question, 30 to 40 words, so three changes you can mention. And then if same question will be asked in 150, 120 to 150 words, then you will have to elaborate it by giving all these examples. And in this way that you will be able to, because if you will be able to give your answer, if you will be able to enrich your content, and you can get better marks. So remember, whenever you are writing you are going to write the answer of any of the questions, it is better that that cite the example, suitable examples from the text, which will enrich your content, which help you to get you better marks. So all those important, if you get any, you find any important facts, important points, must underline in your book. Now let us proceed that what happened next. So while I was wondering about it all, M. Hamel mounted his chair, and he says that while he was thinking about all, he was wondering, means he was the French, the narrator was thinking about all those changes. Then he saw that M. Hamel mounted his chair, and in the same grave and gentle tone which he had used, means he went up to his chair, and since he was very serious, very grave, in same grave and gentle tone which he had used to me, which he had talked to him with, so he said that, my children, this is the last lesson I shall give you. Now remember students that this is very important. If you will have to justify the title, that you will also have to mention that what is the occasion, means when he had announced that this is going to be the last lesson. So here it is, you can also give the reference of you can give this reference, that he announced that addressing to the students, whole class, he said that this is last lesson I shall give you, means I am going to give you last lesson, I am going to teach you the last lesson in French language. And because that he told the reason why it was going to be the last lesson all of a sudden, because he explained further that the order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. And he told the reason, because that he had received the order from Berlin to teach only German, to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Now that there might be a question, might be asked to you, that why that order had been received to teach German only in these two districts, Alsace and Lorraine, because that only these were the two districts which had been occupied by the Prussian, by the German after defeating France. So that's why they had the right to impose their law and order, their rules and their language on these two districts only. So that's why that he told that, because that he had received the order that only German in the schools of these two French districts, Alsace and Lorraine, will be taught instead of French from the next day. And the new master comes tomorrow, and he also announced that new teacher will come next day to teach German instead of French, and this is your last French lesson. And that's why he told that this is going to be your last lesson. And then he said that I want you to be very attentive. He told that that he wanted that day complete attention of everyone to listen him very carefully what he was going to tell. And now students, you can see that what happened next, that what a thunderclap these words were to me. To me means to French. Now French was quite shocked and surprised. Thunderclap means it was a shocking news for him. And when what was the shocking, what was the thunderclap for him? When he came to know that that was going to be the last lesson in French language. In the last lesson, that was going to be the last lesson in his own mother tongue. So it was quite shock giving to him. And he started wondering, he started thinking that, oh, the wretches, those wicked people, that the Prussians, that was what they had put up at the town hall. Now he came to know, now he understood here that that was what they had put up at the bulletin board, the town hall. Means now he came to know, French came to know that what was the news which that people gathered there and they were reading there. It was, what was the news? That from the next day, instead of French, German will be taught in all the schools of Olsek and Lorraine. And then my last French lesson, surprisingly, that he asked to himself that my last French lesson, why? I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn any more. Now he started realizing his folly, his mistakes. That why means, since the French lesson, that was the last French lesson, and he started realizing his mistakes, saying that he hardly knew how to write, and I should never learn anymore. Means he will not be learn anymore his own mother tongue French, and I must stop there. Then it means that he will have to, his learning of his French language, his mother tongue will be stopped there. Then, and oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons, for seeking birds' eggs or going sliding on the shore. Means the change was not in the school, change was not in the Amhamel, rather that a change came after hearing that that was going to be the last lesson. It was the effect of the last lesson that he that also changed the thinking of French, who was not interested at all in study in his language, but now he started realizing his mistake and are going, because he started realizing that how sorry he was for not learning lessons. He was very sorry because he did not pay attention to learn his lesson, and for instead of attending the class, that he was seeking birds eggs, or going sliding on the shore. Rather he was sliding, doing some enjoyment, entertainment on the shore. And my books that had seemed such a nuisance, such a disturbance for him a while ago, that book to whom that he disliked, he did not like, it was like a nuisance for him, it was quite irritating for him a while ago, so heavy to carry. My grammar, means he did not like to study grammar, he did not want to carry his books because it seemed like a burden for him. And my history of the saints, rather he also did not like to study history. And all these were old friends now, and all of a sudden when he came to know that this was going to be the last lesson, after that he will not be able to study anymore in his in his mother tongue, then that he started realizing his mistake, and he said that we're old friends now, means all those books which he did not like at all had become all of a sudden his old friends that I couldn't give up, and that he realized that he could not give up those books. Means it was the effect of the last lesson which brought that big change in his opinion about his school, about his study. And M. Hamel too, the idea that he was going away, that I should never see him again, made me forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. And now it was not, means his attitude towards his study and school had not only been changed, rather his opinion about his teacher M. Hamel had also been changed. And because earlier the idea, he says that the idea that he was going away, when he came to know that from the next day he will not be able to teach, he will not be available to teach to them, that I should never see him again, and he thought that he will not be able to see his teacher M. Hamel again from the next day, made me forget all about his ruler and how cranky means he was a bad tempered. He according to French, that he was bad tempered, means he did not like his discipline, he did not like his strictness, his bad temperedness, means all these things he did not like. But all of a sudden that he started realizing that means he forgot all about negative things, bad things about M. Hamel, and he developed a emotional attachment with M. Hamel and a new kind of respect for him. Now that's all, students. You can put a mark here, and then remaining part of the story we will study in our next class. And till then you can also do that. If there will be some questions, you can find that whatever had been taught till now, that those questions which are related to that those paragraphs, if you find short answer type questions would have been given, it is better if you could write the answer of those questions in 30 to 40 words each. If you have written already, no problem, but you go through the questions so that you can understand the answer of those questions in a better way. And that is the better way of studying. In this way, if you will do the writing practice, if you will write the answer in your notebook, that would be better, because you can never forget those answers if you have written just after reading and understanding the text. That's all for today, students, and we will be continued with the remaining part of the story in our next class. Thank you and have a good day.